But yeah.
But speaking of, you mentioned Julian, you mentioned the Atlanta Falcons earlier. Former Atlanta Falcon Calvin Ridley has been reinstated from his suspension. Obviously, he got suspended earlier in the year for betting. He was in Florida. He was fully injured betting in Florida, and whatever.
And a game he wasn't playing in.
A game he wasn't playing in because he was injured. He was off. But reinstated. How do you feel about Calvin Ridley going forward? Because now he's on your Jags, Julian, and I'm gonna get your word first. Your opinion. How do you feel about Calvin Ridley going forward?
This is probably, like I said it when it happened, this is the biggest wide receiver trade, like best trade for a wide receiver that I've seen in a very long time. They only gave up a 5th rounder for him. Granted, he hasn't played this whole past year, which is kind of a big deal in the NFL. But he's still young, and it wasn't like he got injured. He got, in my opinion, wrongfully suspended for a year. The fact that Deshaun Watson had all that bullshit and he got, 10 games? But then Calvin Ridley, who betted on his own team in a game he wasn't playing in a 9-leg and a 13-leg parlay, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, come on. Like, are you serious? And I get with, like, states getting more legalized with sports gambling, the NFL is going to want to, like, put more emphasis on players because a lot of people were saying, oh, he only got the suspension because he was the first one to ever get it, which may be the case. But just, to kind of set an example. But this is an incredible trade. If he can even get half to what he was with that squad right now with Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram just got franchise tagged, Travis Etienne, that offense is going to look scary. And now Trevor Lawrence finally coming into his own. It's going to be a second year in Doug Peterson's system. Like, he should be an easy plug-and-play fit. That was the one thing that Jags were missing, were number one wide receiver. And when Calvin Ridley was last he was playing, he was a number one wide receiver, a top 5 wide receiver in the league. I don't know if he gets back to those numbers, but even if he can even produce half of it and get at least 700, 800 yards, that's big money production for a 5th-round pick that, honestly, you can throw that away. Like, how many 5th-round picks actually end up working out? So, I mean, this is awesome that he finally got reinstated by the league. So, man, it's going to be exciting year.
I mean, I think he's an exciting little player. I'm looking at his stats. He has 800 yards, 820, 860, 1300 with 10, 7, and 9 touchdowns the last 3 years. Obviously, last year, the last time he played was 2001 off an injury, and then he got suspended. So, like you said, if he can reproduce some of those numbers, like, he's going to be a nice little player. Like, he was like one of these guys that, like, a flex guy that on my fantasy team I would try to pick up because he's able to produce.
Yeah, his last full season, he got 1,300 yards, close to 1,400 yards. So, and that was his last full season.
He's going to come back. Made a big deal, this whole situation, right? Because we're talking about a good player with a lot of talent. And, the league had to set an example of not to do what he did. You know what I mean? So, like, players get comfortable. And, they obviously had to set the tone with that punishment. But I believe it's because he was a relevant player in the first place.
And
he was the first, I think, too, yeah.
He's coming in. He's going to be 29 years old by the end of the season. So, kind of in that mid-range. I think we'll see if he can make some noise. Listen, Trevor Lawrence.
I mean, regardless, he definitely adds value to the Jaguars and what they're trying to do next season regardless. So, like Julian said, for a 5th-round pick, that's a great pickup.
Also, too, side note, Trent Baalke was pulling off some fucking magic. Jags, they restructured like 5 people's deals to where all turned into signing because we were like $30 million over the cap. They just made a ton of deals with contract extensions, but with fat signing bonuses, so it doesn't cover to the count against the cap. So, like, a man that we all dressed up as clowns as for that end of that 2021 season, he's actually been making some serious moves, and Shad Khan putting his money where his mouth is. I mean, they put about $40 million in signing bonus, somewhere around there, which is insane.